Hello, can I speak to I nearly said Monster Arabian Lunar Party, but I mean the Cockroach Junta Party. And I want to speak to them about what the hell they think they're doing, trying to hijack Universal Law Community Trust exemplifications and allow for this manipulation of the truth still going on to try to control the outcome and say that it's their little actors that have done this. So we've got the real, what are you? Why would you do indefinable thing responsible for what you're seeing on the TV now as the Monster Arabian Junta Cockroach Party, and doing the same thing that they did with creating Just Stop Oil and the Elbit protesters. They are exemplifying how they're trying to account for all of the loss, really, that the corporations have had inflicted on them because of the securitization that we did. So, 1160, what's the name of this guy who is
Uh,
pretending to be
the title that he's using is Saurabh Das, the
Soro?
spokesroach.
And
Saurabh,
why Soro?
yeah, Saurav,
SAU.
Rav.
And what was it before?
No, that's the title that the spokesman for the CJP is using.
Sorab Das.
Yeah,
DAAS.
no,
Right.
DAS, yeah,
DAS.
DASS or DAS, whatever.
And so what you said that one of these, that's a title that they've changed the letter.
Yeah, there was a title that was secured into trust with a G instead of an S, and
Oh, now it.
yeah.
Now we know who it's
So
supposed to be.
they're
So,
using the likeness of everything. Same round black glasses, same curly mop of hair, same height
it,
almost.
and they've cloned, they've kind of cloned uh, the people who are responsible for all of this, and whether it's changed one letter in the name or not, we're just it's irrelevant, isn't it? It's they can't keep a lid on that little black box that's got all of this amazing stuff inside it. The unknown has leaked out and got them finally, and they're trying to make it out to be something that's known to them. So whether we were doing whatever it was exemplification we were doing, they had to try to put it into some of their definitions, as you know, and then they can make a column somewhere, or they can explain how do you deal with these people. Now we've called them Monster Raving Junta Party, or what else did they call us? Free man on the land. So it's because we've remained indefinable that we've been able to dissolve all of the contracts that were implied to be enforced, that gave us the illusion of peace when really we were at war. So over here, what we've had, you probably know, got rid of 5 prime ministers. This is our 5th prime minister. Oh, 7th, is it? In 4 years, there's about 5 prime ministers. So when you go back, so people need to start to look what happened 5 years ago, and you can see that the restoration of rights that we implemented has taken massive effect, to such a degree that they had to take the new prime minister and the old prime minister in through the luggage doors. Because it was secured and it's been given back to the people. So we got rid of the Attorney General. That's like the cap. That's like the who was responsible, ultimately responsible for all of this that we've had to be put up with. And Keir Starmer and his gang of merry fuckwits have been removed, because they know that they haven't got any funding until all of this is done. So the legal framework's been put in place. And Angela Rayner, our little Muppet, our lovely little Muppet, she's been given a role in housing. So most of the agreement that we put forward as our offer of settlement in the end has been fulfilled. So we've just got a few more steps to go, really. And so that's what I thought. With the Attorney General's gone, and that's obviously who everybody's like who's going to be the next Attorney General. But and obviously we don't know, because really we shouldn't be having an Attorney General if we're getting rid of titles. So build all of the House of Lords now up with mayors, devolved the power from Westminster into the communities, and down in Kernow, also previously known as Devon and Cornwall, they are telling everybody to come to Cornwall to see their growing projects. So we set up a project down there quite a long time ago now, 12 years ago, and now it's being used as an exemplification for what you can do when you get all your community together and focus on growing the food. So that's been held up as an example. And we're going to have our own currency, so we don't really need to worry about what the Bank of England think of our new little muppet, Andy Burnham, which I'm very pleased to say is where he needs to be right now to deal with all of the things that he was responsible for while he was working in the government before. So if people can just see that it's just going back into reverse to allow for all the people who were responsible to remedy the harm and loss and damage that they caused in the decisions that they made previously, then, they can see a light at the end of the tunnel. So we were telling me about the cockroach party.
Yeah, they basically because of the NET exams, the medical exams, the papers have been leaked perpetually, and even there was a fresh leak that happened earlier, I think either today or yesterday, and those videos are circulating online. So they haven't been able to stop the leaks from happening because it's all online, and you can actually go online and change all your marks and all as well because it's all. There's a 16-year-old who actually exposed all of this. That's been called by the government to come and see whether the systems are working properly or not. And so they had a protest at this place called Jantar Mantar in Delhi, and where Sonam Wangchuk was part of it. This activist from Ladakh. Yeah, there was a movie also made on his. So he was on hunger strike. They took him off. They literally got some white bed sheets and everything after his, I think, on his 18th day of the hunger strike, which is the same as what happened before as well, with another hunger strike that happened way back when the Aam Aadmi Party was going to start. No, and the police came in, snatched him up, said enough of this shit, took him and forced him into the Safdarjung hospital. And his partner came on record and said, "Well, there's no consent for you to keep him there, and so I want to take him to a private hospital." And that should have been enough for people to see that consent is what matters. But obviously, that was then overlaid with the police coming in and saying, and when that happened, they said, "Well, now we're going to march to the parliament and have all, like, well, I think the prime minister, resign over this and have the education minister resign." Um, and so then they went. While all of that was happening, this Saurav was the spokesroach for the cockroach at the party. Um, Went and met the health minister instead and put forth the demands to the health minister. Well, I don't know what the demands are. I think it is for a financial compensation to all the people students who were involved with the NEET exams, the medical exams, and the resignation of the education minister. So those demands were given there to a health minister, who then met with the commerce minister on all of this, and God knows what's happening on that. But then they brought in the police at the parliament peaceful protest that was happening, And obviously, we've told everyone that protesting is just a waste of time. So why don't you just assign your consent away? But they obviously wouldn't want to do that. The police was brought in because all the ministers in parliament, the PM left early because he was afraid that these students now were going to come and cause harm, loss, damage to them. So the police was brought in to then uh, assault them, and there's various records of videos and stuff circulating right now where they've actually the police has assaulted students now. And the government is obviously vehemently denying all of this, saying that there was no assault that happened from the police, and the police is the one, in fact, that got assaulted. So obviously, there's other factions as well involved in this and creating other agendas alongside as to what happened with the infiltrators with ULCT as well when we did what we did, as to why all these Telegram groups and all started. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. And this guy looks exactly like someone that we know, which is who is a minister Ahmad, with the same black round glasses, with the same curly mop of hair, probably of the same height, clean shaven. And so they're stealing likeness now as well to be able
It's
to forward their agendas.
they have to fit the descriptions. So can you imagine that in their boxes that they've gone and hypothesized that they have gone, if we do this to these people, by this point, they will have already contracted with us. If we put them into these conditions over this period of time, we can guarantee that it's going to be this or that they can gamble on. And obviously, when you go in there and you don't do either this or that, then any betting that may have taken place would have to be indemnified by a rig World Cup football final instead, wouldn't it? Um, to indemnify the losses. So they've had to mirror the actions. They've had to mirror the exemplifications in order to try to account for the actions that they've taken in advance in the hypothesis that they were going to get indemnified by these horrific deeds that they've performed against us to try to get us to contract, which is what we've said all along. And there it is being played out on mainstream TV. As we always said, will you believe us if you see it on the mainstream TV? They were told that they had to, beyond all shadow of any doubt, exemplify what they really represented, and that's why we got the Muppets in the middle of the halftime show, courtesy of Trumpy. So, changing, whether it's changing a letter, and then they call it a nominal, they've given it a name now, or whether it's the police blaming the CPS or the equivalent over there, and the CPS blaming AI and the judges, and then the judges blaming the government, and the government then blaming the Attorney General, then you know that it's finished. The capstone of this elite system that was in place to obscure, to protect them from the evil deeds that they were doing, stopping them getting prosecuted. That's why we don't really need an Attorney General if we haven't got a hierarchy. And we haven't got a hierarchy when most of the seats in that place where you would uphold a hierarchy have been converted into mayoral people who have got a title of mayor, have now evicted, this is CD Vacante documents that we did, evicted the so-called lords and their titles and their unelected hereditary peers out of the box and out of their seats in the House of Lords. So, if people can't see through this now and continue to allow themselves to be divided and accept these labels that these other people are trying to project onto them, then there really is, those people are going to stay in the same positions that they're in. The video or the picture that you sent me, just for the record, for anybody who's in these groups that are seeing these pictures where you suppose they're trying to imply that they've got four of our ministers sitting on the floor with their legs crossed, looking very guilty, looking down at the floor while these four uniformed actors stand behind them. If you really believe that they are Minister Emma Benz, then you're as deluded as the people standing behind them in their uniform are. Because if you look at the videos, obviously, of any of our uh, intercoursing, let's say, with the people that were wearing the uniforms, it doesn't look like that. It's, you know, you can tell the ones that are staged from the ones that are not, and usually we're being accused of assaulting the people in uniform. So it looks like they've all been given a COVID jab, which obviously Minister Embrun wouldn't have. So I don't know where they've dug these corpuses up from to get them into a seated position to imply that they are now under the control of the people in uniform. So what is that group?
These are the Telegram groups that started off, like you just said, that Minister Moban would not get a COVID jab, which I didn't. And these are the same Telegram group people that said that I had gotten a COVID jab as well. So it's all part of that same 30352078 group on Telegram. And they've started off level 1 training, level 2 training, level 3 training, just like the
Wow.
JSM people. Yeah. And they're portraying themselves to be ministers, Moban. And 30, this Sunita now is dressing up in a sari, a checkered sari, by the way, black and white checkered sari. If you go looked at the video that I sent to the trust, she's there saying, "Oh, the cops didn't turn up," and she's using the rules of the system, the maxims of so-called fraudulent law, to be able to, God knows, do what on there, and has a board saying this property is secured by ULCT when they have nothing to do with ULCT. So they're
It's,
obscuring the truth pretty much all the time.
lots of people have fallen into that trap and used AI to write their documents. And that really was the ultimate exemplification between original stupidity, let's call it, and artificial intelligence. So, you know, be it by your own hand, the idea that you can ask a system that you're supposed to have got no consideration for, um, and that you've got only contempt for because of the way that it's imprisoned people, why would you go and refer to anything that they've got as any value? And this is where this article the other day, did we talk about the AI slop? There's an article in the Law Gazette about them all screaming that it's something that D. John used to say about rubbish in, rubbish out. And that's what's happened because they've gone and rubbished, literally rubbished the whole definition of validity by trying to cover up the false claims that they've made. They've annihilated themselves and their boxes and their databases as having any validity to it because they not even they can trust it. So that's there was a notice gone up yesterday about the digital ID has got to be scrapped, which was one of the. It's all this is all part of the same box of unsubstantiated claim. Doesn't matter. It's just a box with unsubstantiated claims inside it, evidence of people making unsubstantiated claims, and most people would label that box COVID and then work backwards once they opened it, and all of this spew of unsubstantiated claims came out, but it doesn't matter whether it's in the court or whether it's at the bank or whether it's proof that debt exists, who lent who what my name is, where I'm from, all of these things that we've tried to substantiate ourselves through.
Can
As
I say something at this point?
course, yeah.
Yeah, so the PM of what was India cuts up in Parliament and says, create more debt and drink more ghee.
Drink more what?
Ghee,
Wait, wait,
clarified
I think
butter.
All right. Who said that?
The Prime Minister of whatever is India or was India, Modi.
The, he said that.
He said that in Parliament.
They should wear there was a thing about politicians should wear the badges, like
Yeah, like the racing car drivers. Yeah,
they should wear, it's the same
farmer
as the
reps.
report. The people who are reporting in the media, they should wear a little badge to show who they vote for before
Yeah, and
they
who they're supported by, who they're funded by.
and where is your mindset at? And and then we might turn it on and listen to what it is that's being projected. I mean, I am putting the TV on for the first time in many, many years uh,
Same.
because we wrote it. We wrote the script
Yeah,
that they're having to write. If they go and sit in any of those seats now, what we did is we defined the roles that those uh, jobs, let's say, that they can perform and how they have to perform. So the minute that you sit in the Prime Minister's seat, everything is spewed out behind you, all of the truth. There's no holds barred, and that's why really we've got these people back who stood down out of Keir Starmer's uh, cabinet because they were he was manipulating them using their history, um, and that's what has happened across the board. We couldn't get these people who were any good at their jobs who were going to be any good in those roles because the people who were under the illusion of a attorney general operated hierarchy system sustained by people like Keir Starmer, who were protecting people like Mandelson and Mountbatten, then there was no way that you were ever going to get any remedy, and you weren't going to get the right people for the right jobs that represented the majority of the people because the elite are still occupying the roles. So that's why we had to evict them and use ourselves as the weapon with which that could be done through, which was truth. So if we just simply going in there and asking do you truthfully, you want me to answer that question about what my name is truthfully? The honest answer is I've got a fucking clue, mate. I honestly don't know unless you're trying to coerce me into making a claim that I can't prove. I don't want to go in the COVID box with
because that's
unsubstantiated.
exactly what the police officers were doing, even with the protests. They were asking people their names.
Yeah,
And even in the ULCT, this the article that I sent you, and the video that I sent of these four control dogs sitting down in white shirts, the police officer, the three-star, who was interviewed for this, said very clearly, well, they weren't giving their names, and then he turns around and said, well, they gave their names, and then we arrested them. It's
I
as simple as
saw
that.
that I saw that one.
Mm.
I saw that, and and if
And of
people
course,
can't,
the activists that are funded by, of course, they get these awards that are funded by the Rockefellers. So
and that's you need to look at who it is in the background, who it is that's funding these organizations. When we I'm really glad that we haven't accepted any funding from anybody other than the people who in the community have stood up and said, well, okay, here's a percentage of what it is I've saved by you giving us this information and supporting us and standing surety to us while we do this. And that is the definition of self-funding. That as a platform now can be laid out across every town and country and community. And because did we forget this stuff? It isn't like Eureka, we just thought of this. It's been this before it was glossed over with the administrative system adding to the administration of the law, like we've said all along. Once you take that adding to the administration away, there you go. You've got your own, of course, you've got your own currency, you've got your own energy. Put it behind your own token. They're going to try and go down the avenue of stable coins now. I've heard the word stable mentioned in three different articles in one day. And that's what they're trying to push across. Just going back to the digital ID, which is all part of the same thing, the cryptocurrency, the digital ID, they all still sat in the COVID box with Goldman Sachs and their little cronies, waiting for your consent to accept this. People have got to really just get out of that box completely and stay there by just not making why is it so difficult for people to say to themselves, you're asking me to make a claim I can't prove? But because the ego works in such a way, it's my money and I'll do what I like with it, or this is my name and this is me and this is my definition and this is who I am. Okay, prove it. How do you prove who you are? By your actions, by the deeds that you take, not by the things that you say. And so,
And so
but,
talking about that, sorry, continue, finish
no,
it.
go on, go on. What were you
And
saying?
taking that as an example, that's what the Telegram groups have done again. So all these exemplifications that you're watching, they give 1% to the likes of Sunita and Sunil, 3035 and 2078, and none of that comes to the community pot. So they're using the community funding to fund it back to terrorism, literally, upon everyone's rights. It's crazy.
But
I mean,
it's
and
like,
people are accepting this as valid. So whatever, which is what I've said, that if you consider that valid, then well, you're just going to have dig a deeper hole for yourself.
because it conveniently sits at their woke state. They want to say they're aware of all these things, and it's like a keyboard warrior. I'll just
Yeah, and
throw it
then we
all.
have Sunita, emailing the trust saying, "Oh, come on, 1160, we started together." Really, if we started together, then how was I the only one running around in my conveyance exemplifying? Why don't you just show your date of assignment of consent, and we'll see who started together and who didn't? I mean, you know,
It,
just the
it,
barefaced lies.
it's we're going walking past a homeless person and throwing him a fiver and patting yourself on the back and saying, "No, didn't we do well today?" What is it that it's an appeasement of your conscience. That's what you're sitting there talking to me about, that you haven't really done anything of any significance, and to try to balance out the investing that you've done in the system that you say that you don't want to be a part of, you've thrown a fiver at a homeless man instead of giving him. Why didn't you give him a leaflet and say there's things that you can do and there's people who can help you and there's people who want to help you, and you won't need fibre at the end of it, because we can all go to the fields and exercise our right to grow. We can all go and with these projects and the Distima reset program that's out there that people are implementing, and they're having to implement it. In Alada now, in a place that we used to be called Greece because of the olive oil. I mean, how original is that? How original. Unbelievable. You know, this is the
Yeah,
level of
just corruption of the mind.
just total like scum on your shoe, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
is that the best that we've got? Or as far as intellect goes, and so artificial intelligence, if that's your definition of intelligence, will come and say, oh, you're really intelligent. Well, it depends what your definition of stupid is before I can take that as a compliment or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've just got to raise the bar. And as far as Sunita goes, and as far as anybody who's claiming to be Minister Emma Ben, if you're still collecting the slave tokens of people and uh, covering other things other than your overheads, then you've usurped and capitalized on what it is that this was all about. This was about driving the people, the collective consciousness, to a point where they realize that they don't need that into the usurping of their rights by using some fiat banking systems money. So this thing with the gas fields out in the North Sea is a really great example. They've only ever had 1% of something and multiplied the hypothesis to the power of 10, to the power of 10. So
Mm.
if I've got, let's say I've got 1,000 square meters of a gas field and it's churning out, let's say 1,000, whatever it is, I count gas in. Uh, and then I say, oh, it's only 1%. It only provides 1%. Well, where is the rest of it coming from? Is it coming from the pylons that have got copper wire stretched across through the ether, bringing in the ions and sending that in the grid? Is anybody going to ask about that? And so if we're not creating the energy freely without any profit being made by these massive corporations that tell us that we need funding, but we only need funding if we need their currency. And if we don't use their currency and we just turn around and say, right, okay, we're going to create our own local currency and we're going to communicate with our currency to other communities with their own currency. People not see that the banks and the OBR and all of this become irrelevant at that point. And so, you know, the minds that are still sustaining this are the very worst for me, because they've come all the way through COVID, didn't have an injection, didn't do this, stood up to the banks, asks for some evidence, and then falls down at that last hurdle, which is, what do I use to convey my energy with? So now, because we didn't do anything other than use the rock, they've had to now define any token that conveys one's rights to another is now classed or defined as a financial instrument. So that's so that they can try and take the control and the jurisdiction then of your exchanges. So what if you haven't got, then there's the next layer. What if I haven't got any rights to claim in the first place? What if if I haven't got any rights? It's just a rock, isn't it? I'm not saying that first I've got to claim some rights in order for me to convey them behind a token that I use, whether it's what do they call them, non-fungal things. The
Non-fungible tokens, NFTs.
not fungus. Uh,
Non-fungal.
so not even got a mushroom behind it. So
Oh my God, have you read the studies that have come out? The clergy from various religions tried one dose of psilocybin, and they lost their trust in religion. They finally met the creator,
bloody hell,
and they
that's
were like,
priceless.
"Shit."
That's a priceless token, that little mushroom. But
Seriously.
and that's it. It's a token of truth. That's really what it was about. Is that the truth had been capitalized on. And you were able to get, they were talking about knowledge is power and all of this sort, and people paying each other and taking what we gave freely to everyone and monetizing it on these YouTube sites or selling them back their rights to access their data, like Dijon was trying to get you to all do with your kindness credit accounts. They don't, maybe they do realize, and that's what they're there for, to guide everybody, turn right at the traffic lights instead of marching straight on to Buckingham Palace. It's herding the people
Mm.
to a dead end, really, where they're just going to carry on going around and around and around and throwing £5 notes at homeless people. Anyway, so we've got rid of, just like we said we would do, so the Vagrancy Act. They were saying that Andy Burnham had created 2/3 of reduction in rough sleeping. So yesterday didn't say that he was going to end homelessness, but he used the words rough sleeping. So instead, but it was homelessness, it was vagrancy, the Vagrancy Act, and they're saying that it went down while he was the mayor of Greater Manchester. But at that point, it was COVID. And so, yes, it did go down because they scooped them all up off the streets and they said it's unlawful for you to be homeless under the Vagrancy Act. So we're now going to use you inside the prisons as collateral for our private prisons to provide a service, being your newly provided accommodation and your food and your security and your electricity and even your television license is whacked in there. Where they charge you a pound a week for the privilege of watching their dribble on their rinse and repeat cable TV. And so yes, they did. Rough sleeping did go down, but the amount of population, the prison population went through the roof, and nobody could get out because the people who were in charge of these occupying these roles, such as Attorney General or Public Prosecutor and etc., were all making money out of the shares that they bought in HMPPS and various prison services. And
Yeah, the CRIS. Yeah.
fundamentally, there behind all of it was Crown Corporation, who this thing with the Dartmoor prison exemplifies beyond all shadow of any doubt of any basic educated individual that the land that was claimed by the Norman invasion and their offspring, let's say, um, was as
But it's
false as.
spawn.
So we asked them to prove their claim that this occupation of this bit of the rock was valid, and that's why they've got devolution. That's why the borders and the boundaries have gone back to what they were like before. And even those are going to be dissolved because really the only thing that is divided is the water, and they usurped your passage through the water with mercantile law.
Mhm.
And so that's gone. That's that's gone back into its box where it should never get out of um, into the void. Why do we need commercial intercourse if we aren't capitalising on our rights? Well, we'll capitalise on your rights, and if you're not going to do it, we'll define you as abandoning your claim, and then it's free for all. No, I just don't have to acknowledge. I don't have to disclose what it is that I have done elsewhere, and leave themselves wide open to misinterpretation that they then can turn around and call a nominal error inside their databases and blame the inputter. So what I wanted to talk about was sovereign data, really. The definition of sovereign data is where the inputter, the party, the participant who is disclosing the data, this is why we did do the kindness credit accounts, and we have offered that intellectual property, if you like, that part of consciousness that came up with that idea to our newly restored structure that we're giving to the communities, which is what we came to do. We didn't come here to line our pockets and buy yachts with, like we've been implied to have done. We came here so that we could restore the rights of the people, and I don't know what other better service it is that somebody could offer as community service to put themselves into a position knowing that they were going to be unlawfully incarcerated in order to release all of the other people who were unlawfully incarcerated, or who had to put themselves through these different exemplifications that we've done. And we did that knowingly. We did that, and people can listen back to 2020 Zooms. This is what we said that we would do: go and get ourselves arrested for these things, let them hit us with all of the charges that we know they are false, and slowly but surely, every time we went through one of those exemplifications, the the return on that energy that we invested into this is the reason why they're all seeing what they're seeing about the um, beyond all shadow of any doubt, the truth is out. That all of this market manipulation, using war as an excuse, using electricity and energy as a reason to tax you or to charge you for something, that what's the point in having a government and a trust that the government's supposed to be something that you can trust, and they've absolutely been milking us. using the structure that we've been paying for. So really, until we can pull our final bit of our conscious out of that structure, and all come together. That's why I believe they do this every 4 years with the division. But this is your flag, this is your language, and now you've got Spain and Argentina speaking the same language, fighting each other on a football pitch. I mean, if that's not the example, so that they can all bet and gamble on who's going to win on a already staged event that is so obvious that Argentina's been told that they've got to let Spain win. You could see it written on their faces and the way
Mm.
that they played.
Yeah, Messi tried to cry, but he couldn't get a tear out.
The, it was all of it. It was
It's fun.
the whole performance. And so today for our Muppet show tonight, we've got the Russians are now in the water near 40 nautical miles south of uh, Plymouth, but 40 nautical miles south, that's France, isn't it? Are they doing this sitting on the fucking river in the River Seine with their gunship? What? I mean, come on, people. So, and it's like saying, oh, don't you dare go in that gas field. Don't you dare
Mm.
hypothesize that you might be sustaining yourselves without the need to pay the protection racket, the money for not coming and bombing you. And whether that's Trump or whether that's the other puppet, whichever flag it is they're waving, the, the, the connection between them all is the same. And it is money. That's it.
Mm.
It's
Yeah, the
money.
slave tokens.
So put that in the box. The unsubstantiated claim, you need to have money. No, I only need to have money because you believe that you need to have money. So in the end, that belief that you have carried forward and passed on and invested in and passed to the next individual ends up coming to me to say, well, I haven't been converting my energy into money. And so then you turn around and you say, well, you use money. Well,
Mm.
what for? To pay the rent on a child's roof over her head because I'm not there. But while I'm sitting here doing what it is that I'm doing, and you're not paying me to do that, you're going over there and you're paying other people to carry on doing the things that the other people are then having to do, which is all sharing the belief that this money is required until it's paid forward to the people who provide the roof over the head. And lo and behold, I have to say, let me send some slave tokens to that account. And then you've got the audacity to turn around and say to me, well, you use money. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
same.
you
It's
see.
ridiculous. Yeah.
So, we can either step into this at this point and say, okay, we've always said that if don't bitch about the people doing the jobs, get up and do it yourselves. So we got up and did it ourselves because if we'd have done it under the titles that we believe that were ours to use to go and get a job with, then it wouldn't have worked. We would have been unable to blow the whistle. We would have been, well, we
Unable
exemplified
to
what
do whatever we did, basically.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
get it.
we did all of the things that proves now to people and shows to people that when you do blow the whistle on this shit show and these terrorists, this is what they do to you. They change your name, put you in the prison, and traffic you and take all your rights off you, and know that you can't go and get any information about it. We've actually got an email yesterday from one of the Emma Ben's cases where they have openly admitted that everything that they did to try to convert him and turn him back into one of their little slaves, and they actually used the word turn to turn you.
Attorney. Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, it's a turn. So if I've
A
turned
turn.
you, so I've taken you as a
Right.
minister of Ben and I've turned you, but put you under such great conditions that you're now running around waving your birth certificate in the air saying, this is me, then they can tick the box that they've turned you. they've turned you back into swearing your allegiance, is if you read the Merriam-Webster's definition of this shit, that you've turned into assigning your consent back to become your liege to another lord,
mm,
to another feudal lord is the word. So if people can't comprehend that every time you lay a claim to that name, you are swearing your allegiance to the feudal lords, then now you can understand perhaps how it was so very important that we didn't do that, so that we could undo the feudalism and the system of lords and ladies and titles and attorney generals and all of these kind of things that they can see now before them, all imploding. And there's, well, it imploded in 2020, and then we had to make sure that it wasn't going to be resurrected. So they had 5 years to, well, 4 years and a fake few months to try to force us, to get us to become atturned and use their title once more. And so
which is why they kept wanting me to get into exemplifications with them and go to jail for them.
this
Mm,
is why they starved us. This is why they tortured us. This is why they kept us in the dark and trafficked us and kept us from our families and evicted us and stole our conveyances and then called us uh, criminals. And
mm,
so, you know, the fact that there are cases and incidents and reference numbers that people are then contacting the Ministry of Justice, for example, and saying, okay, so you charged me and held me in this name, and you go to the Ministry of Justice and you give them that data, and they say no records found. Well, that's all we needed to do. So in one way, right at that point where you think, oh, it's the very worst thing that somebody can do for their own benefit is to return themselves. What that did is it brought all of this evidence that we wouldn't have got, and it caused the merging and of the databases, of the different databases being used by different agencies to become merged. Then we got the National Audit Office to overview. So what we did is we took the titles, like we said, we've been secured on them, redefined the roles of how they worked, gave them the teeth that we'd lost ourselves, and and then set it back upon itself, so that those people who were responsible for the inverted way of interpreting what it was that they'd been presented to them, so that they could cover the evil deeds that they'd been doing, that they'd thought all along that they had impunity and immunity from, suddenly is gone. It's just like the whole shield that they were using to protect themselves from having any of this information out there has gone. And
mm,
so the people who are like, oh, how did that happen? Or was it freedom, or was it common law? They have had to come out and say, now we're talking about the law goes out, we're talking about using the Solicitors Regulatory Authority versus the HM inspectorates. And we actually went in to that system with those titles that we'd secured, and we did what it was that they couldn't do themselves, because the roles and the hierarchy system prevented them from doing it. So we got the guards to overrule the judges. We got the judges to turn around and say that it's above my remit. What are you getting yourself involved in something that's above your fucking remit for then? And there, lo and behold, in the Law Gazette yesterday, there's a story about how the CPS and HMCGS have been involving themselves in things that are above their remit, out of their remit. What was out of their remit was commerce. And they were involving themselves in commerce. They weren't trained in copyright and patents and trademarks. He's just got some numpty sitting there who were trying beyond, uh, at the cost of anything lawful, throw in as much mud and slander and defamation at the people who were doing this to set the people free from this illusion and calling them criminals. So now we get to the point where, okay, now we want the evidence, and they turn around, Ministry of Justice, even the HMCTS. So we know that the databases have been merged, and now the AI slop that's what they've given it. The corrupted data that was fabricated by the police and the CPS has now been given the definition AI slop and nominal errors, so that they can then account for these cases. But you can't account for the cases, it turns out. HMCTS, contact crime, very helpful guy, helpful AI, let's say. I don't know whether it's actually a living, breathing being, but this is why when you're communicating with these databases and AI, you attach an attachment of what it is that you're talking about. You're not saying that that is me. You're saying that because they want you to give us your name, give us your address, blah, blah, blah. We've just been saying, and then identify yourself. We don't know what title it is that you've been using. So we're not playing the guess the fucking what's the name, what's the name that I've used to hide your rights behind game with you. We're going to use the evidence that we've got in some instances, which are these charge sheets. And these charge sheets then go as an attachment, and somebody has to actually open the attachment. So that's how you get through the barrier of the AI. AI can't open the attachment, it can't read it, and it can't give you an assessment of the contents of the attachment. So then you get let's say, a thing that breathes oxygen, opening it instead, and they confirm then that there are no records for this. Well, what you've just done there is you've got a CPS openly admitting that either one of these two things has to be true. Either I've sent you a charge sheet that I fabricated myself. Why I would do that, I don't know what the logic and the algorithm would have to be to imply that somebody would do that to themselves. With a number that the system actually recognizes as not having anything to do with anything. So, so do you get that? So you're sending in the charge sheet, and the individual's looking at it now, comes back with a receipt. And look, I said, are you seriously, right at the beginning, do you think that we'll ever get a receipt from them, that it's done? And it's that. Where's the receipt? The receipt is that the charge sheet that you've been unlawfully incarcerated with has got no record of in our OR 2020/2020 / prefix, and that brought all of the different divisions, the different databases, the different whether it was CPR defined as civil code procedure rules or CPR criminal procedure rules, we just smashed them all together, and out popped the corruption. And so, and it's a receipt